we were both like, they at least have to do 3, right? Because there was 147.
No, that's wave 2, my friend. That's
wave 2 is at 147. So how many? There was 150. There was 150. How many are wave 1?
It was 38.
Wait, it was 38 in wave 1? Hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all things LEGO from the perspective of 2 adult collectors. We're your co-host. I'm Grinch.
And I'm West.
And today we are discussing the state of LEGO Star Wars in our year 2025. But before we do that, West, I have a question for you. What did you build this week?
Well, great question, Grinch. And the answer is not much. We just found out we're moving again next summer. So very excited about that. And so I am going to attempt to be disciplined and refrain from building stuff for the time being. I am going to work on consolidating my collection, specifically over the holidays, and see if I can actually downsize a little bit. So I'm kind of excited to see what I can do with that. But that's kind of my LEGO update. How about you, Grinch?
Excited for you to move. I'm sure you're very excited to do that.
Yes.
I see you did not take my advice and assemble sets to then package them and move them, but hey, that's fine. That's fine. I may have been untrue. Last week I said I was gonna go to the LEGO store, I was gonna get the S2000, and by the time this episode came out I would have built it. It was awesome. It was sold out. It's been sold. I can't find it anywhere. I'm just get to order it online, I guess. Shame on me for supporting retail in the year 2025, but I did go to the LEGO store, which was cool.
Okay.
I got the Stranger Things brick heads, so started those.
Nice.
It's like a 5-pack or whatever, so I built 2 of them. One my wife, one me.
Just in time for the show.
Exactly. We'll be finishing those this week, of course. And then I also went and got the Pick-a-Brick wall because there were a ton of excellent pieces. Some you might be surprised to hear about. Like they had 1x3 gray pieces, just bricks and light gray, which surprisingly is kind of a rare, it's one of the more rare light gray colors. And we made those vignettes, and I think I used a few of them, and I used all of them, and I just a few of those dioramas that I made to use them, and I was like having to reorder them, and I was like, what, like 1x3s, what? And they're just I just didn't have a ton of them, so I got a few stacks of those, and I was originally only going to get 1 box, and I ended up getting 3 because they also had a wide assortment of masonry profile bricks. And so I got some dark orange ones, some
those are great.
Dark gray ones. They had white ones, but then I got the dark orange, and then what other color did I get? Olive green. I got a bunch of olive green masonry. Yeah, I was really excited about those. So I originally started because there's more. So I originally started I'll just get one. I'll get some of those, and I got I stuck them together so I could optimize them and get them fit in there. And then I originally what I had saw was they had the dark green fern pieces, and they had the olive green leaf pieces, and they had the reddish brown bush piece, the classic LEGO bush piece.
Really?
And I think it must be a Halloween special, and I actually am debating on going back and getting more because I looked it up on Bricklink afterwards, and they're like 75 cents on average new.
Nice.
And I think I loaded like 20 into my one. So originally I was just going to get one thing because they had some good stuff, and I've wanted to load up on the firms, but then I turned around and they had the masonry bricks just out on the little, behind the counter area because they were just overflow. Oh, they just had too much. So they were flowing. And so they just left them on there. So
you might need to FaceTime me the next time you're in, and I might need to Venmo you to pick me up a box or two myself. Which actually, fun fact about Pick-a-Brick, you can sometimes ask the associates if they have anything in the back. And if they do, they can share it with you. And obviously, you can buy it. So what you see is not always what's there. And if you just, you're polite and you chat somebody up and start talking about stuff, you never know what you'll find. I had a very similar situation at the La Cantera San Antonio location a few months or years ago. And just with talking to the associate, she's like, I got more. Like, do you want more masonry bricks? And I was like, yeah, like, let's do it.
Yes, please. Yeah, they also had like the 1x4 in the I think it's called medium lilac or the medium violet color, and they had it in tan. I have a bunch of tan, and I had a bunch in that medium lilac color already from the last time I was at Pick-a-Brick. So they also had them like the 1x2s in white. So I filled up, the base of one box with the olive green leaves, and then I put the brown bush pieces in there, and then I filled it around with the fern pieces and more plant pieces, and then they had the 1x1 round plate piece with the hole on the top, just your classic stud with the hole. And it was in dark green, which in my Amon's Hen mock, I used like 50 of them. And so I grabbed a few handful of those, but the average price on those was like 10 cents. So I was kind of like, ugh. So yeah. I think it's now like, since I've like over the past couple of weeks, it's gone down. Like when I first started working on the Amon's Hen like a month ago, so it was like 10 cents, but it's gone down. I wonder if because they threw it on Pick-a-Brick. So now it's like 6 cents on Bricklink, but for those tiny little ones, that adds up quickly.
Yeah, if you're a Bricklink speculator, that was a good stock to short, not to keep. So
yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah. So that's what I've been working on. So one quick announcement I did want to mention, our last episode, unfortunately, despite having the proper attribution and copyright sources for our music, it did get striked, and I just missed it. So it got taken down. It is, as we are speaking, it is in the process of being challenged. So hopefully that gets back up there. But if not, if that ever happens, it's on YouTube. So I do apologize about any inconvenience there. It should be hopefully back up by the time this is released, if not very, very soon. And if for some reason they don't reverse it, then we'll just re-upload it without the music.
And just to be clear, Grinch, that is on Spotify, iTunes, but like you mentioned, still available on YouTube. So.
And then, as I called out in the last episode, just as a friendly reminder, there are timestamps below in the description. So if you ever want to skip ahead to anything that you are very excited about, you can use those timestamps. But West, why don't you tell us what else is exciting? Exciting Lego news.
Let's get into it. So, Grinch, this week we have 2 big items and then a third that I just wanted to call out. So the first is the Lego Ideas 2025 Wave 1 announcement was revealed today, October 30th, the day we're recording, to a lot of fanfare and to some surprise, and we're going to speak to that here shortly. Lego is in the Animal Crossing video game. There will be a version of that you can play where the entire environment is transformed into Lego. I do want to stipulated, doesn't look like this is a full Lego Animal Crossing video game, kind of like how Lego and Fortnite teamed up a few years ago. So there was like Lego skins in Fortnite. It kind of seems like that's the same thing going here. Admittedly, not much of a gamer, specifically not much of an Animal Crossing gamer. So if you're curious about that, you can find more details online. And then the last thing I just wanted to call out is a few months ago, we did an episode about our favorite Lego pieces. And as you remember, there were a few pieces that we had called out of like, hey, these are awesome Lego pieces. And every time we called them out, we kind of asked the question of like, could it be improved or modified or expanded, right? And one of the ones that we called out was the cheese slope. And recently, we got information through the reveal of the Lego Speed Champions Back to the Future car that the cheese slope line is being added to. And I know you spoke to this on the solo episode when you addressed it yourself, but I just think that is so cool. I literally built the Concorde the other day. I know I mentioned it on a previous episode. And there's a spot where a 1x4 cheese slope in white is literally needed. And it's the connection it's their 1x2 cheese slopes on either side, and they're only connected by one stud, and so they're kind of flimsy and they're a little fragile. It's a very, like this would be a perfect spot for a 1x4, and we are getting a 1x4 and we are getting a 1x3, and I just think that is so cool. And we called it Grinch, so a little pat on the back to us for that foresight. Us and Lego, we're like right there. But let's talk about.
Well, I am short selling 1x1 and 1x2 slopes, so
I wouldn't it be fascinating if like Bricklink or Bricklink became like an actual stock market where you could like short sell stuff
No.
You could invest in futures and
Nope.
Somebody could buy up all of the supply of one brick, artificially inflating the price, or thinking back to the
Wes, you just said you're not a gamer, but in a community where you can kind of do that, Counter-Strike, it has a $6 billion market cap of its skin values. I mean, some of these items go for hundreds of thousands of dollars per item.
Oh, it's wild.
And they just released an update. And it is the most controversial Counter-Strike update at all time at this point, because the market has lost half of its value practically overnight. There's a system where you can trade up to another item, and you cannot do that for knife skins. And they've just now allowed that. And it wiped out I think it was $4 billion off of the skins market. Billion. Jeez. With a B. So no. We will not speculate on Bricklink. That is the last thing the Lego community needs. We're not even going to wish it or talk it into existence.
Well, I'm grabbing my cell phone here, Grinch, so that we can speak to the kind of big news in the room. And I just want to have the models in front of me. But let's talk about this Lego Ideas 2025 Wave 1 announcement. How wild is it that for a series of 38 sets, we have 9 new sets being announced from this wave? Now, I need to stipulate there's some caveats to that. One set's a carryover from the previous parking lot of the 9. So really, it's just 8. And then 3 of those 8 sets are also put into the parking lot. So really just 5 new sets from this first wave of 2025 have been approved to be turned into sets. But by all stretches of the imagination, as we've seen with the parking lot, I mean, so far we've only had 2 sets in the parking lot, but both have gotten approved. It just took a little extra time. And the sets in this parking lot are fascinating. So Grinch, why don't you talk to me about some of your first impressions from seeing this wave announcement and then, like the implications for the audience, if you will.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing was we speculated on the number of, sets that they were going to select, right? And I think we'll have to go look it back up, but I think we were like, 3, 2. We kind of trolled and we're like, they're going to do 1, but I think we were both like, they at least have to do 3, right? Because there was 147.
No, that's wave 2, my friend. That's
wave 2 is at 147. So how many? There was
We're
150.
only talking about wave 1.
There was 150. How many are wave 1?
It was 38.
Wait, it was 38 in wave 1?
It was not that big.
Oh man, why was I thinking?
Sorry, it was 57. More. I apologize.
Yeah,
it was 57.
I'm getting my my
but
idea.
Still not 150. Still not 150.
So they're definitely only going to do 1 in the 146. No, I'm surprised. I was trying to remember which ones we selected here. I'm getting all my review stages
re-listened
mixed up
to the episode today. And congratulations, because I think you picked the Cuckoo Clock and the Old Man in the Sea, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. But that's in the parking lot, right?
It is. But if it gets approved, I picked the Grand Central Station, which was a bit of a controversy. And then I picked the Studio Ghibli set. Their kind of Studio Ghibli, like, vignette that they had that had all of kind of the main big properties in it. And so that one did not get selected, unfortunately. So you have been on a roll, Grinch, with Godzilla and now the Man in the Sea, potentially. So we'll see.
Dude, I just had a moment. I was looking at the image of like all of the, the little tiles of all the sets. And I'm like, I can't find the ET one. I can't find it. and then I realized it's because it's a check mark. So it's one of those days. The ramen is interesting. The ET is interesting because there was 2 ETs in this one, right? And I actually, well, they're both very good. I prefer.
I think we called out the one that was the vignette, though.
Correct, because that was a vignette. I liked that moon. I liked the display aspect of it. But this one looks okay. I need to rewatch E.T. That's on my list. I actually found out my wife has never seen Goonies, so I think we're going to watch that this weekend.
Okay.
But the biggest question I had, Power Rangers is Power Rangers. That's fine. The Smurfs one, meh. I'm not really a Smurfs person. The ramen one, meh. I've got 2 questions here, though. And the biggest one is the part usage. And specifically what comes to mind here is the La Catarina uses, are those brick separators or not? Those are not brick separators. I'm just kidding. They looked like brick separators, but I think they're that elongated slope piece that came out in the Mustafar set years ago. I thought they were brick separators. But there is some like flowers in there, right? And my question is Lego going to include that? Because you're not supposed to include extra stuff.
Is that like too adjacent to botanicals or something?
Yeah, well, but it's not. It's not Lego,
right?
Like the little flower things on the ground.
Okay.
So like, are they going to include that as like a paper part or a cloth part or something, or not? I mean, is it part of the build? Like you're really only supposed to include the build, but I honestly I thought they were using brick separators on the dress, and maybe they should, but no. Looking at the ramen one, they use the minifigure hands for the detail of the ramen noodle itself, right?
Yeah,
they've got the kind of square of ramen there. That's not technically a part; it's a subpart. Right. So when you're looking at the part it's on the box, it comes on the torso, right? So that's one piece. It's on
Yeah.
Bricklink, it's considered a subpart, so it's a piece of a part. It's not a part itself. You can buy it by itself on Bricklink, which might have you confused, like it's a part then. But no, it's technically a subpart. So will they do that, or will they find another way to capture the detail? Because that's a very thin bar, right? So I'm just curious what they're going to do there.
I would imagine they probably do something different, right? Because that's really using minifigure hands in any sort of non-minifigure arm capacity is usually something that Lego, I mean, I don't think they've ever done that in an official set. And maybe one of our listeners or viewers can correct me on that. But short of, did they do it in the Queer Eye Loft set where they didn't have hands on the torsos or something? I forget. There was some weird kind of shenanigans with that.
Yeah, with the torso, like the clothes hangers.
Or maybe they did have the hands, and that was the weird part, because it's like, why would you have hands on like hanging clothes?
They did not have hands.
Yeah, and I think somebody called that out because like then you have to put the hands in them, but as you've mentioned in the past, putting hands into like arms like that is technically, there's like little ridges on the hand, and you can remove them, but if you do it enough, it will wear them down. And as anyone who's owned Legos for a few years and was a child knows, like, you know, you can eventually get it to where like the hands kind of almost fall right out of the arms because they've just gotten so worn down. Anyways, I mean, this is a really interesting wave. We have so many different sets from just this huge wide range of different themes and different styles. And, you know, we kind of have our standards, right? The standard bearers of extremely nostalgic sets. Power Rangers very much in our timeline as millennials, not really something either you or I were huge on. So another kind of nostalgia, you know, over the head there for us. I'm also not particularly, it's not that I'm not fond of Smurfs, as you mentioned, just not something that we focus on. It's not necessarily about us, right? But the point is, these feel very niche, and we're seeing a lot of different things. The one that really kind of surprises me is the ramen, because I feel like Lego is engaging now in even more sort of sets geared towards adults that are meant to replace real life things. And this kind of takes it to a new step because we haven't really ever gotten food items before, have we, out of Lego?
No, not, you know, we get a few sculptors here and there. And to just circle back on something really quick, the Fab 5 Loft did include arms in the torsos, but you are supposed to remove them. Or hands,
okay.
I should say. Like, so that it did come assembled like that. Which you own that set, but I don't think you built it.
No, I have.
Built it.
It's been years.
I own it.
I own it. Yeah. But you were supposed to remove them?
That's what it. Yep, that's what it looks like. I haven't built it, but I can really think that's probably the only example we can. That still isn't them actually using the minifigure hands, but it's probably the closest example that exists of, you know, removing them. So please digress, my friend.
Yeah, I just, you know, like I said, buildable food materials is something we've had people on the side outside of Lego, and I'm sure Lego's internally sculpt stuff like this before, but much like botanicals kind of took the idea of taking like flowers and plants and turning them into Lego, like, is this ramen dish going to be the start of Lego, like a Lego food line? And if it is, right, like, I think I would caution the Lego group a little bit here because, and obviously they control how many they make of all these sets. We've talked about this in the past. We never really know. So if they make it in a kind of a small wave, it's probably sustainable to some extent. But like, this could be a line that just kind of feels like there's no end to it and no direction and no, not that there's no purpose, but like, I don't know, man. I'm a little surprised by that one, to be honest. I think the Katarina is probably one of the coolest of all of them. certainly I'm a huge fan of Highclere Castle, and so excited to see Down Abbey get its time on the screen. But that is going to have to be a rather large set or a facade, which could be fairly disappointing depending on where you fall on that spectrum of either big idea sets or facades. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think the design as a facade, it makes it, I think it's maybe 10 studs deep, but that'll be interesting for sure. It'd be cool to get some of those leaf pieces in different colors like tan, and it looks like dark tan. So I wonder if that'll happen. But yeah, the comment on the ramen's good, because maybe they're justifying it because it's kind of a cultural unique food. Like, do we need a burger and fries? Probably not, but ramen might appeal to a certain demographic and audience outside the United States, and it's also different enough that it might appeal to a lot of people in the United States because it is different, right? There's ramen shops, right? Like, that's a thing. There's noodle shops, right? So I think maybe that's why that choice is there. But yeah, it's definitely one you see a lot in community builds, but not not officially from Lego.
Yeah, I could see them going and expanding and doing like sushi, right? Because that could be very fun. And they could take all the fish from the aquarium that they're not going to sell and turn that into their Lego sushi set. So that could be something they could do.
Bro, those fish are our friends.
Those fish are fake alive, dude.
What? Is that why they don't move?
I don't know. I think that could be interesting. But to your point, right? Like, to what end? Because are you gonna go like
that
around
was actually
the world
your point, West?
Well, you made that too, right? Where you said like, are they gonna make like a burger, right? Like, where's the limitation on this? And
yeah, for sure.
Where do you draw the line of like, I am going to feature this type of food, and I don't know. And we have no idea that this is going to be expanded, right? That's kind of the point of Lego Ideas, is it doesn't expand. So,
yeah.
Any thought on the other 6 sets that were, or those 6 that were approved, Grinch?
I'd say go back and listen to that episode where we talked about some of these in more detail. The Golden Girl's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't think the Seinfeld set sold well. So this seems like, I feel like this is just going to like fuel fire to the TV studio line again. Like, again, I don't know why we haven't got Community at this point, or Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but neither here nor there. The one question I have is the Daft Punk. I'm a fan of electronic music. I've been to a lot of shows, festivals, commercial, underground, whatever. Been to a lot of them. The lights is a big part of this set. It's also a big part of like the electronic music experience. Lego doesn't really have anything at their disposal to do what this designer did. And I think if they don't come out with the light like that, people will be disappointed. What are your thoughts?
I concur. What I would counter propose is that when I think of Lego Daft Punk, I just want the minifigures. Like, everything else for me is secondary.
Oh, good. It'll be $200 then.
But and they'll never do this, right? But even if it was like a $10 poly bag with like the 2 minifigures and like a DJ table, right? Like, I know. I'm acknowledging that is never going to happen. But like, so to your point, I think is absolutely fair. If they were to try to recreate the set that got picked, I think they're going to have some challenges. Now, I would say, if you look at like the gem set that just came out in Lego Ideas, the way that they used clear pieces and pieces underneath it, I actually think did a really great way of sort of mimicking, specifically what a gem looks like under light, right? So you could maybe see some clear or opaque, semi-opaque pieces, or the pearlescent pieces being used with some very bright pieces underneath. to create some of that color contrast that you see in the set, that still wouldn't really scratch the itch that you're commenting on. So I totally get it. Maybe this is the first time we get Lego and like a Lego light kit officially. That would be pretty fascinating. We've gotten it in like trains and stuff, right? So it's not impossible. A battery box and a wire that's already within Lego's wheelhouse. So not impossible to get, but they could also pick another version of the Daft Punk,
Yeah, but just
album
remember too, like when you're picking the Lego ideas, that would probably be a full 180 from this idea itself. And it is interesting. So the builder did show with real Lego bricks how they did it, or how they would suggest to do it, but they actually redesigned this thing, and I must be Blender or something, to make it animated. And so all the pictures are animated minus a few at the end that are not.
Interesting.
And they have a suggestion for what to do, but it's kind of, my spidey senses are kind of wondering, it did not look like this. And I think this is kind of a little bit of a dangerous game here, just based off of the image that everybody has seen will be the thumbnail. It will not be the sixth image in the list of images buried in the description, right?
So it kind of feels like
a lose-lose almost. No, I mean, if they can make it work, they can, but it's not going to look like this. It's just
No, I think that's totally fair. I think you mentioned the Golden Girls. I mean, I would concur with your take on it. Neat, right? Like, I'm neither, super big on it or super bad on it. I do agree, though, that I feel like this would supercharge the TV series. I kind of felt like we got beyond that, and now it feels like we're getting back into it a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. The Man in the Sea, you commented on it. You picked it. It's an excellent set. Lego has been slowly dipping into some historical writers in some really cool ways. Why is this not more of a thing? This could be a Book Nook series that Lego, includes or something. I think this would be awesome. So I think this is a great pick for Lego to explore, and their connection to sort of like literary icons has been really cool recently. And I think it's one that they could continue to explore with a lot of great success. Let's talk about Daft Punk one more time to say that I think that's a parking lot set. That might be the first one we see that gets turned down for the reasons you've mentioned.
Yeah, could be. Or even just licensing. I mean, Daft Punk is pretty notorious for, kind of being, I don't want to say shy, but they'll put themselves out there an awful lot.
I mean, literally, they wear masks and their voices are, modulated into like a computerized version of itself. So, no, you're absolutely right. Like, they are very private individuals, and that totally makes sense. Although I do, and I have no way to I don't know them personally by any means, or haven't seen them interviewed. I kind of feel like this is right up their I feel like they'd love being in Lego, right? Like, that just seems like something they would like, but that's completely from like an outsider's perspective with very limited personal knowledge on those two. But I feel like you'd have to be pretty introverted to not be excited about you being made into a Lego character. Does that make sense? Is that a fair statement?
Well, Daft Punk, if you didn't know how you felt about Lego, you've heard it here first from West. You like Lego. Get on board. I think, though, West, we're excited to see what Lego does with these sets. Of course, they will not all be exactly like this, but some sets that will be exactly like they are Lego Star Wars. Let's go over today's topic. Today's topic. All right, so for this week's topic, we are talking about the current state of Lego Star Wars in 2025. So this year so far, or barring any big surprises, 50 Star Wars sets have been released. They have quite a few sub themes: Ahsoka, Andor, Episode 1, Episode 2, 3, 4, 5, helmet collections, magazine gifts, mechs, microfighters, promos, Rebuilt the Galaxy, some seasonal. So there's a lot here. The Starship collection, Clone Wars specifically, UCS, of course. But West, how do you feel about the current state of Lego Star Wars?
Well, Grinch, that is a big question. As you mentioned, this year, there's been a wide release of sets. The one that you called out, though, that actually I think is interesting is we did not get an episode 5 set this year. We had episode 6, but not episode 5. So that was kind of an interesting change. Now we got a few of those over the last few years. So I think we're, pretty good on episode 5.
Which happens, right? It happens.
Absolutely, right? It kind of comes in waves. So, but yeah, this has been an interesting year for Lego Star Wars. And when we were kind of spitballing ideas to talk about, I think you had mentioned this. And I was like, actually, I think there's something here because this year is, and not necessarily exclusive to 2025, much like the Marvel series, Star Wars, under the kind of direction and guidance of Disney, has started to kind of pull back a little bit. We know at least one movie was announced for next year in 2026. I'm sure, somebody can pull some of the D25 or whatever Disney, announcement information. They seem to change stuff pretty much on a whim. But we got the Skeleton Crew earlier this year, I believe was 2025. We had Andor this spring that came out, and that's pretty much been it for big Star Wars properties. There's been I think there was some animated stuff. It's hard to tell, right? But point is, there hasn't been any big movies that have come out recently. Even the pace of the shows is starting to slow down, and so now we're in this weird kind of no man's land of IP generated content where Lego has started revisiting stuff that it hasn't visited either ever in some cases this year or in quite a few years. And we'll kind of call out those two specific sets here in a bit. But we're seeing a lot of new stuff and a lot of stuff that we haven't seen before or haven't seen in many, many years. So that's very exciting to see. And so I would say overall, I think this wave has been pretty positive. But what about you, Grinch?
That's funny because I'm sitting over here like this is just more of the same crap we have seen or stuff we don't care about. So it's let's talk. Let's talk.
Yeah. Well, so like I said, oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We didn't see like Camino training clones, right? But that was a promo. That was the May 4th promo. Like that wasn't even a retail set. Like that would have been cool to get on retail. We didn't see the Home One Star Cruiser, but like, did we need to? And if we did it need to be in this format? I think so. I think that was definitely a bright one for me, a positive. But Kylo Ren's shuttle kind of came out of nowhere, especially for this, Starship scale, because it so far outside of the Millennium Falcon had been either really iconic ships, i.e. the Millennium Falcon, or more capital type cruisers. And to me, that's not really Kylo Ren's command shuttle. Being one of the few sequel sets we've even gotten in the last years, it seems kind of like a weird choice. Another buildable Grogu that seemed like it sold really well a few years ago and then just sat on shelves. And essentially an update to the Slave One, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Grinch, these are all really great points. And this is, you're not wrong with any of this. These series, the wave here has been a really interesting wave. And it's weird too, because if I'm not mistaken, we got 2 UCS sets in the spring, which we've never really gotten before. I think it was kind of like a spring, summer, and then we got the fall UCS set. So 3 UCS sets in 1 year, that's a big change over kind of the standard 2. So that's crazy. You mentioned Kylo Ren's command shuttle, which has been like the first sequel set that we've gotten in many, many moons. And we got the brick built logo for the first time. That was kind of an interesting choice, and one that kind of mirrored Marvel had a logo that they had built. More helmets, cool. More buildable figures than I recall. Chopper. We had Wicket the Ewok. There was K2SO. I mean, that one was relevant, right, with Andor, so that kind of made sense. There was the Stap, the battle droid with Stap. Do you remember that one being released?
That was actually a good set in my, that was a standout set in my mind. I thought that was good.
Yeah. I think
V9 Torrent, that's also another standout one. But
I think, Grinch, one of the things that, and I'm not trying to change your mind, but I think if you relook through the series, that's why I like initially was kind of like tepid on this wave. And then as I look through it, I'm like, oh man, there are some really cool stuff here. And like, I think if you take it as a whole, I think overall it's a pretty great wave. That being said, a lot of things that are still just kind of like odd and interesting and kind of just out there. So was there anything that really stood out to you as like overwhelmingly positive of like, wow, like I can't believe we got that this year?
So I love, to your point, I love the revisit to Clone Wars, and we've been getting a little bit of a renaissance here of Clone Wars, but I think my issue with this wave is just kind of an issue with, I guess, Star Wars, because there's a little bit of everything, but not a lot of anything. Clone Wars is the one exception, right? You got Jango Fett Starship. Exactly. It really, you got the V9 Torrent, right? You got the MTT. You got the Turbo Tank. Like, that's all good. For me, I would much rather prefer to just see them really go all in and go deep into, hey, this is going to be a prequel year. This is going to be a sequel year. Because you could still have some of these sets on the shelf with other sets, right? You can.
Very true.
For other years, right? But it's just kind of this mishmash, hodgepodge. There's the Mando and Grogu N1 Starfighter 4+ set. Just kind of seemed random and out there. There's the Death Trooper and Night Trooper. There's a buildable Peewok, right? He's holding his legs together like he's got to pee. And there's a buildable K2SO. Like, the K2SO is good. That looks cool, but I guess that's kind of an Andor set, right? So it just feels just like a little bit of a hodgepodge, right? You got one Rebuild the Galaxy set, right? You got Chopper, right? You got Kylo Ren's shuttle, you got a logo. It's just a little all over the place for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that take is not only valid for this 2025 Lego Star Wars wave, but also the state of Star Wars in general right now. It feels like Disney still, even after years of just trying to figure it out, still has not really picked a direction to go with it. I recall when the Mando and Grogu movie trailer released, which it released around the time of a controversial event, and it kind of felt like it was pushed out there just to sort of change, pull everyone's attention away. It was like the end credit, and it was kind of done in like a weird font that looked reminiscent of Indiana Jones, but like the colors were green instead of like that yellow and orange kind of fading colors of Indiana Jones, like in the logo. And it just looked like it was something that like anyone could create with, a few hours and some, PowerPoint experience. And it just looked sloppy and not polished and not complete. And the thing that really surprised me, and this is, I promise this has a point, is if you watch the trailer for that movie, it shows the Razor Crest in it again. And it's just like, what are you guys doing? Like, you destroyed it in the second season. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched it yet. It's a disappointing series, so just do what you will with that information. And now you're showing it in the movie again, and I get it. You can have multiple shit. Like, it's not like there was only one Razor Crest, like, ever, right? But like, you made such a big deal about him getting the N1 Starfighter and kind of souping up that thing.
Yeah, but that don't sell enough toys, West.
It just feels like, why are you going back when you like literally had the thing destroyed? Which was, I think, a weird choice, but also was a statement, right? Which is like, we're willing to destroy things in this series that you hold dear. Now, it then felt really weird when, like, a year later, Lego releases a UCS Razor Crest. It just felt like poor marketing strategy there, but like, it is what it is, right? But apparently it's back, and so it feels like Star Wars is aimless, and it feels like
to elaborate, because we'll get to the positive.
Kind of
I don't want to be all doom and gloom,
sorry,
but
just
some of
wanted
my
to rant a little bit about
right?
the point.
25% of the sets released at retail, so get rid of your poly bags. Actually, I'd have to recalculate that if you get rid of the promo sets, but nonetheless, a little bit more than 25% of the sets have a plaque with like the blueprint image. Higher if you count the helmets having their little plaque on them as well, right? And then the starships. So there's a big focus on display, which I actually like, I love, but there's a lot of repeatability here. And then again, it's just this kind of, it's Kylo Ren's helmet, it's Chopper, it's an ATST, it's the Death Star, it's K2, it's just all over the place. But here's the thing that really grinds my gears, West. You bought the ARC 170 fighter.
Yeah.
Right?
I did.
If you wanted to have a space battle, what would it fight?
Yeah. Nothing.
The Jango Fett Slave 1?
Nothing.
Is that... If you bought the ARC 170 fighter and the V19 Torrent, what would it fight?
They can fight each other.
I guess. So it's like, it's just kind of this reiteration of ships in my mind. And it's a shame, because it felt like, if you were to just look at some of these names, like, you'd be like, this is going to be great. But then, we got to talk about like the price, right? Like, going back to my point, let's say you did have that other thing, for example, the Battle of Felucia, Separatist MTT, and the Republic Juggernaut. And then you picked up some 327 Star Cores. That's over almost $400 for those 3 sets just to have your little battle.
Yeah.
Like, to summarize it, Walmart like does their 2-in-1 like, sets combos sometimes. So they did one for the Star Troop Battle Pack and the MTT, and it came with the free Millennium Falcon poly bag. Like, why the Millennium Falcon? It's because that was the other set that was made. So I don't want to be all doom and gloom, because like I said, there was a ton of excitement, but I think the price is what really brings you down, right? Because if you're a Star Wars fan and you're like, I got to collect all this stuff, like, are you a fan of this $50, snow speeder from the Galaxy, whatever that was called, Rebuild the Galaxy, right? Are you really? It felt like what happened was they were working towards a goal, and they were like, well, we need to get this much money from all these Star Wars sets, so people are really gonna like these ones. Let's add $20 here, $20 here, $20 here. That one nobody's gonna buy, but we're gonna include it because, it's the show that we have. Add $20 here. That's really what it feels like, right? This wave just feels like a bigger issue with Lego right now. But it's a darn shame, because you bought Star Wars for the first time in how long?
Yeah. I don't want to blame Lego on this one, Grinch. I think this is more because we know that they get their cues from Disney.
Sure.
So I think this is really more of a Disney just not figuring out what they want to do.
Maybe. Yeah.
personally.
Maybe that's it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so you mentioned some standouts. Is there like any, 1, 2, 3 sets that you're just like, man, this is an awesome set. Like
I
this.
love the gingerbread AT-AT. Like I am
I
debating
didn't
on
think you'd
getting
say
it.
that.
You know, it's going to retire at the end of the year. I love the gingerbread Darth Vader. Like this is cool. And the advent calendars, dare I say, are getting a little bit stale at this point. I mean, I don't think that's controversial at all. And I think this was a really fun way to kind of do something a little bit different and just
Yeah.
random all in, right?
Yeah.
I do like the turbo tank and the MTT. I don't like the price, but I do like the set. Aside from the price, I like the torn. I love the Clone Wars stuff. I love it. But the other stuff just feels a little bit, the Death Star, we've talked about it. The ATSD is okay. It's okay. It just feels okay.
Yeah.
The Jango Fett Starship was like people talk, I mean, nonstop talk about it, right? And I don't think I've seen anybody talk about it in the last 4 months, 5 months.
Yeah, the cycle, kind of the hype cycle of Lego sets, especially with these waves now coming in January and March and May with the UCS, it just feels kind of nonstop. And like I mentioned, this year we got 3 UCS sets, and it just like the ATST just kind of came and went, and the Jango Fett Starfighter came and went, and then the Death Star was the big thing, right? And like it just feels like Lego's created almost like a CNN version of like a hype cycle where it's just like so go, 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 go. And there isn't a ton of staying power with these anymore. And it's like as soon as one comes out, everyone's focused on well, I mean, take the Summer Wave, for example, right? The Jango Fett Starfighter came out. It was a big deal. By all means, an incredibly looking, set. I have the original one. This one, from a distance, appears to have corrected a lot of the sort of bulky sculpting challenges of the first one. But then the Turbo Tank came out this summer, and for better or for worse, kind of dominated the media cycle until we got the Death Star, and it just everything is just kind of in churning, and it's hard to kind of keep up.
Yeah.
You mentioned, oh, sorry, go ahead.
It reminded me of a Marvel wave from 3 years ago when the Doctor Strange Sanctum Sanctorum came out. Like the leaks happened, people got really excited. The Sanctum was revealed, Thor's hammer, and then all of a sudden it was just like Captain America's shield. And I was like, okay, who asked for a $200 Captain America shield? And then it was just, some weird one-offs, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, well, it's kind of just petered out. And we got the Hulkbuster, like a $500 Hulkbuster is the Death Star. It's like, okay, well, who really asked for this?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really great point. Some of the sets that stand out for me this wave specifically, as a huge fan of the Andor series, obviously the U-Wing and the K2SO are, I think, really awesome additions. The U-Wing, this one is smaller than the original one, and so there's pluses and minuses to that. I still really I have a soft spot for that original set. This Arc 170 Starfighter though is I think the best version of the Arc 170 that we've gotten, and I know some folks on YouTube have done comparisons and stuff. We talked through the dimensions and the scaling. It's not quite perfect, but I just think the way that they captured everything and the building techniques they were able to employ with this generation has been just like so far high and above like what we got before. So kudos to Lego for really doing well. Grinch, is there anything that for you is just like either a disappointment or a head scratcher? And we've kind of already talked to this a little bit, but specifically, calling stuff out.
No. I've been negative. Yes. No, I'm just kidding. I think the biggest one is maybe the Death Trooper and Night Trooper.
Oh, I was going to call that one out. Okay, go for it.
This is why you got to flesh out your notes better, bro. I'm going to steal all your thoughts. Because my other point, those other Ahsoka sets didn't sell well. So like people don't really have them, but it's just kind of there, it's just there. And
Yeah.
if you want, you could talk more about that one. That's fine. I would actually think, honestly, I think the biggest disappointment is probably the advent calendar. I mean, like I said, they've really been starting to feel stale over the past few years, and this one is done. Like, this might be the nail in the coffin for advent calendars. It's just not. They did these like exclusive prints for Jawas, right? Or sorry, for minifigures for like ugly Christmas sweaters, and this one had a Jawa in one. Like, that's not very exciting. You get the classic battle droid, but this time you get two because there's a super battle droid. Like,
cool.
$55 for that. For that. So, I think the biggest head scratcher is actually, this might be a hot take, but I think it's the Force Burner Snowspeeder for me. And here's why. They justified the price of $50 for a Snowspeeder, which just 6 years ago was $30, felt overpriced, right? Or was it $40 when the 20th anniversary one came out? What was that, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now? This is $55, so $15 more for actually less pieces, right? I think that's the biggest head scratcher for me, because this is non-canonical, right? It is comical, with, it's a hot rod Snowspeeder. But I think people justified it because of that new window piece, which is good. It's a good piece. But it seems like a weird set to include something like that in, right? Like, just do a Snowspeeder. It's been 6 years. Just do a regular Snowspeeder at this point.
Yeah.
And it'll be fine. But they put it in this set, so it's like it just feels icky buying that set for $55 for that windscreen, right? That's what feels really weird. And I think that's the biggest head scratcher for me.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. So I'll mention the one that obviously that you brought up too, the Death Trooper and Night Trooper battle pack, which it just feels like an odd inclusion. We have Chopper, who's associated, at least on Brick Economy, with the Ahsoka series, right? But also he was part of the Rebels series, so could kind of go either way. We haven't really gotten a ton of Rebels sets recently. We had Ahsoka's Starfighter, Jedi Starfighter, which was oddly associated with the Clone Wars. So we've got like all these kind of weird, like, revolving things around the Ahsoka series and everything kind of that has to do with that side of the Star Wars canon. These Night Troopers and Death Troopers, the Ahsoka series, I think, kind of came and went in a bit of a whimper that people weren't expecting. It looked fantastic. The Night Troopers looked in the show really cool, right? They kind of had this like Kintsugi armor deal going on with like the red scarves around them and like the gold, and like that, just, it looked wild. I think had this been a Rogue One battle pack, for example, that would have made more sense. And I get it, we talked about like production timelines and stuff, so it's hard to predict how things are going to do. And then, like, by the time Ahsoka was airing, this battle pack was probably already in production to some extent, or in pre-production. So hard to kind of balance all of that. But it feels, we haven't gotten a Death Trooper since the Rogue One series kind of formally ended. We got some in an advent calendar. That was like the last big.
Not some, one.
Yeah, no, you are correct. But that was the last one, right? And so since then we haven't gotten any, and now we do, but it's in the context of Ahsoka, and they're not normal Death Troopers. They are still part of kind of like, they're like Night Death Troopers. So
yeah, but they got gold accents, bro.
Zombieified trooper, and yeah, they have kind of the gold markings on them. So it's not like if you were trying to build up a army or whatever in a Rogue One style, that like this would be additive to you. So it just, that one I think is a bit of a head scratcher. To go back to one you called out earlier, though, I just don't understand the Grogu and Hover Pram set. This just feels
Yeah.
it. There's so many buildable figures in this wave that just kind of leaves me wondering, like, who asked for this? And like the Wicket, the Ewok, um, the droids, they all just. It's like if we got another buildable R2 next year, we'd be like, why? What are you doing, Lego? Like, what's going on? And I feel like these very much fit within that kind of question, right? Like, why did we really need a new Grogu this fast?
Yeah.
And he has a hover pram, like, cool, you know? And it's even more pieces than the Grogu himself, who
Uh-huh.
looks like he's, just visually probably is 400 of the 1,000 pieces in this set, if even that, right? Now, if they would have offered you a $40 buildable Grogu without the pram, maybe that would make sense because it's at a price point that you maybe didn't get because the other one was too big earlier. But it's not. It's at $100. So yeah, it feels odd and like just strange choices to me. Some head scratchers.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be positive here in a moment. In a moment. No, no. I think the good way to summarize it is kind of like we said, kind of like you said, is it just feels directionless, and I think this is a trend we've seen right from Star Wars, Lego Star Wars specifically, over the past couple of years, right? There's some really good ideas and some really good concepts, but I feel like you're starting to just see it fracture into like, well, here's the one set for people that like the Disney series, right? Here's two sets for people who want throwbacks to the OGs. Here's some kind of new, more innovative stuff we're going to continue, like the helmets. We didn't get any dioramas in 2025. I thought those did pretty good, but we did get more of the Starship series, right? Like that was, I think, that was a good inclusion, right? But it just really feels like you're just starting to get these one-offs, right? Like I said, just here's the stuff for the prequel lovers. What I really liked about this was the fact that there was this kind of sub theme of the prequels, right? Of the Clone Wars. I liked that.
Episode
But
3 got a lot of
feels
love.
like this feels like a symptom that has been plaguing Lego Star Wars for the past few years, right? And I think I just had expectations for this wave this year, and they were met in a lot of cases, but by inflated prices, right? And then they just, then it's just kind of like it's the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? Like I made a decision a few years ago to stop collecting Lego Star Wars. I've broken that decision a couple of times when it came to like the dioramas and the Starship series, but they don't make the dioramas anymore. So, and I'm not buying the Death Star.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for your discipline in not picking up the Death Star. Let's chat real quick about the pricing. There was a lot of kind of just discourse and I wouldn't say anger, but it felt like this year pricing for Lego and Lego Star Wars has always kind of been an odd thing, right? And it felt like this year especially we heard a lot about that. You did a kind of a dive into the data, Grinch. Do you want to kind of walk everybody through some of the highs and the lows of the pricing this year? Because oddly, for a year where the pricing was pretty terrible in some cases, it also was pretty not bad in others. In fact, even below the golden standard that we've come to claim is where it should be. So yeah, do you want to talk to listeners and viewers through that?
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, that golden standard metric is, I think, few and far in between at this point when it comes to Star Wars. We've got the Millennium Falcon poly bag. That was 6 pieces per price per part, 6 cents. That was the gingerbread ATT. That was 8 cents, almost 9. And then you got to go, before you get to really 10 or under, you got the Ultimate Collector Series Jango Fett Starship, which it weirdly does not feel like that good of a deal, though, even though it is 10. It's 10.1 or 0.101. But it's $300, right? And we did just get we got the original Slave One, right? Boba Fett Slave One, for $200, and it is new and improved, but it's not that much bigger, right? And we've talked about that. That's kind of a Lego. That's an issue with volume, right? It doesn't get twice the size because it has twice the number of pieces. But yeah, then you get like the helmet, the AT-AT driver helmet, and then surprisingly, actually the Jango Fett Starship. And after that, everything's above 10. Everything. And when you look at it as a whole, the average is 13.5. So if I was a pessimist, I'd say it's 14, right? I mean, you'd round that up, right? But it's 13.5. So we won't be a pessimist anymore. I did look at the median though, right? Because you take an average, you got something really pulling that up potentially with like the 4+ sets. The median price to part ratio is 12.6. Again, if I was a pessimist, I'd round that up to 13. So it's not crazy off. It's really not.
But Grinch, what was some of the worst?
The worst, well, you got the 4+ sets, right? The N1 Starfighter, 30 cents. Here's the weird thing. The price to part ratio for the Ahsoka Death Trooper and a Night Trooper battle pack was just as bad as the Republic Juggernaut. They are both 19. They are 0.4 tenths of a cent difference as far as price to part goes. I didn't really hear anybody complain about the Death Trooper and Night Trooper price.
No, I actually, though, haven't really heard anybody talk about it. So,
well, yes, touche. So, take that for what it's worth. The other thing that I always found really funny is the MTT tank. That one's also $150, 16, so a little bit better than 19 cents per part. But it's pretty much just as poorly priced.
Yep.
You're really splitting hairs there if you're like, well, this one's 813 pieces, which comes with like some pretty cool exclusive clones, by the way. And this next one is 16, but comes with battle droids. So you could choose where to split hairs through a lot of this.
Right. This MTT for $160. Yeah, it's got like what, I don't know, 12 minifigures, 6 of whom are battle droids. But like battle droids really are not meaningful minifigures. And you had kind of a whole thesis about minifigures kind of on average costing about, you could kind of put them at like a $5, price range. And that felt pretty good, based off of CMF and kind of other sort of observations. Battle droids really need to be like $3.
$1.
They're just, it's not the same thing. And it just, so to see a set like this that is so battle droid heavy to be put on par with another set that has some very exclusive minifigures in it that arguably, and I'm not going to justify the price, but like if you had to compare the two, I think you'd lean and look at the Juggernaut and go like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense because this is the first time we've gotten these galactic Marines in Lego, right? Which again is not, I think, on its own doesn't really hold any water as an argument. That makes sense though, that like this one would be worth more, or these figures would be theoretically worth more. But by and large, I mean, just really disappointing. 800 pieces in the Republic Juggernaut. I'm rounding down just a little bit. It retails for $160. I'm like, wow. Lego's never commented and said that they're sticking to a 10 cents price per part ratio. Like they've never said that's like the intention or how they price things. but it just feels like this is way overpriced for what it is.
And it's a shame because I think those would be like, if I were a prequel fan, I'd be like really excited, right?
Yeah.
And I want to, and we're being negative about the sets. I want to be positive about the sets for a second. I talked about the gingerbread, but yeah, the Arc 170 Fighter was great. U-Wing was great. The set themselves for the Republic Juggernaut, I know there's maybe some stability issues. I think some people overplayed it. I think other people underplayed it, which was kind of a interesting dynamic. I think in the Lego community, some people got called out for making too big of a deal about it, and other people got called out for underplaying it and be like, "Oh no, look, it's super stable." Oh crap! Sorry, hold on, let me fix that real quick. No, it's great. It's great. Which I just it's just kind of the state of Star Wars, right? But then the MTT is really good. It really is really good. The V19 Torrent is really good. That K2SO is really good. There is still a lot to love here, right? Right?
Absolutely, Grinch. And I think, we have been, kind of negative. We talked through our head scratchers and disappointments and the price increases. So that's totally fair. But there is still just a lot to love in this wave. Before we kind of transition to the next sort of points about the wave, Grinch, is there anything else that you wanted to call out or just highlight about the wave in general?
Oh, West. I didn't even get to my biggest concern.
Oh, man. Okay. Send it.
Ready? Are you ready?
Let's do it.
The Death Star. Let's talk about this Death Star. And here's my concern. The set's fine. The set is overhated. It's going to sell fine. And that's what concerns me. I've seen it at the Lego store when I was there at the Pick a Brick wall. Somebody bought it. I saw it in the display as I was walking in. Somebody goes, "Oh man, that looks way better than I thought it would in person." I mean, it does, and I would agree. It does. It's really cool. It looks cool. It's big. It's big. It looks awesome. It's $1,000, and I did the kind of inflation calculation. We had that posted on the Instagram. Go check that, of comparing the price to the Millennium Falcon, right? The price to part ratio, how much money, the Millennium Falcon would be today, and backwards inflating it, so on and so forth. And the comparison's actually there. Actually, at the time, the Millennium Falcon would have been a worse deal based off inflation and spending power than this. But if this thing sells well, we all lose.
I thought you said you were going to be positive.
No, I was. I said I liked some of the sets. Now I'm back to my biggest concern.
No, I agree, Grinch. And we have called this out on this channel multiple times, that this wave, you see it, right? That Lego is getting more expensive, but not necessarily because the brick is more expensive. It's just that the sets themselves are more expensive.
In this wave, the bricks are more expensive.
Well, that's true too. But
I think when we pulled that data, Star Wars had an 11 price to part ratio. So this is 13, which is, some people might be like, "Oh, it's 2 cents," but that's also another way to put that is 15%.
Yes. And this series is, if you look at the cheapest sets in this series, it's the 4+ set, it's the mech, it's the Millennium Falcon polybag, the Night Trooper set. The next cheapest set is a $40 to $50 set. And then from there, it just goes up like exponentially. And we've talked about these older waves, the Johnny Thunder waves, the Monster Fighter waves, even, where you had 1 or 2 sets that maybe broke that $100 threshold, but you had a lot of sets that kind of fluctuated between $20 all the way up to like $70. And we are just not seeing that anymore. And this $1,000 Death Star it's got to be just this latest iteration of the price creep that keeps going. And like you said, if this set does well, we lose as Lego consumers, because it's telling Lego, like, yeah, this works. You can make a $1,000 set and people will buy it. I don't know. The future looks bleak for Lego if that's how this continues, to be honest. I mean, not bleak for Lego per se, because clearly people are buying it, but like bleak for AFOLs. If your choice is a $1,000, Lord of the Rings set for the one Lord of the Rings set this year, that would be rough. And it's a shame that like we don't have the $20 Lord of the Rings set, the $40 Lord of the Rings set. It's why I haven't engaged in that modern wave, because I just don't want to spend $1,000 on 3 Lego sets. As awesome as they are and as great as they
Try
are.
15, but okay.
Fair enough, right? Point still stands. A lot of money, right? So yeah. I mean, Lego is honestly kind of pricing themselves out a little bit. So
yeah, and let's be clear too. This isn't a 2025 Star Wars issue, right? This has been going on for a while with Star Wars specifically, but I think for me there was a lot of excitement, and I think the reason I'm so pessimistic about it for this year specifically is because it's like, hey, we heard you. You guys want Clone Wars stuff. It's 20 cents per part. Sorry.
it does feel like Lego is getting a little bit more. You could use this 2025 wave as a way to demonstrate that maybe Lego is getting a little more strategic with its pricing, where they're going, hey,
yeah, absolutely.
This has got Galactic Marines in it. I know you've wanted this. I know you've wanted this for the last decade. You're going to get it. You're just going to need to shell out.
You're going to
some
pay
extra money. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Lego has every right to do that. So maybe one more reason why some of the hype machine and the, just kind of constant feedback we give Lego is maybe not as good of a thing as we think it is, right? We're really just giving Lego the recipe to charge us more money.
Yeah, I mean, the more vocal you are, right? So, Wes, where do we go from here? How do we fix this? Does it need to be fixed? Is it just is it? So the reason I thought of this episode, because this was not the original episode we had planned, but when I was at the Lego store, I had a really interesting experience. I've called this out a few times ago, quite a few times ago. I was at the Lego store. I looked and I was like, man, there's a lot of black box. But this last time I was at the Lego store, I was looking and I said, this sliver of section is the Star Wars section. They typically have, the 2 walls. It used to be, half of the wall, right?
Yeah.
At least. And now you look at it and it's not even a quarter. It's like an eighth.
Yeah, the Lego Star Wars portfolio seems to be getting smaller, doesn't it? Which I think is weird, but, again, makes sense with what we've seen from Disney and when you don't have movies coming out, right? Like, it makes sense. It's an evergreen theme, but we're not in kind of a growth period here for Lego Star Wars. We're kind of in that sustainment period. So
yeah, Wes, where do we go from here?
Well, I don't really have a great answer for you, Grinch, and unfortunately, I think it's one of those cases where I think Lego's got to kind of experience a little bit of a pinch and some feedback, and so for the listeners, if you are kind of at this point where you're like, man, I really do need to give Lego feedback, like, go and give them ratings on their website, and it is not inappropriate.
Don't review bomb.
I'm not saying review bomb, but if the set is too expensive, you can give them small, don't give them 1 star, but mark it as like 3 and just be like, love the set. It's way too expensive. Like, that's not necessarily, I don't think, inappropriate, right? So,
no. I don't want to encourage people to review bomb stuff.
No, and I agree, right? I mean, I think this weird,
and only review it if you buy it, please. Like,
1 star versus 5 star sort of world we live in now, where like, you can't be a 4 star. Like, 4 stars is, like, everything has to be 5 stars, right? Like, no, if you don't like it, like, be frank. So, anyways,
yeah, no, I think I mean, it's good. I think vote with your wallet, right? Just don't buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you think that set's overpriced, don't go buy it for the Galactic Marines. Like, you're gonna have to
get them on Bricklink, dude. Like, if you want it for the Galactic Marines, go buy that on Bricklink. Or go buy it used on Bricklink.
You ready for my hottest take?
Okay. Oh man, I'm a little nervous. Go for it.
2025 was better than 2023 or 2022 or 2021 Star Wars, for that matter.
Okay. I wouldn't disagree.
And that's how I felt about 2025 Star Wars. It was not good.
Speaking of which, you mentioned earlier that you have kind of backed away from the theme. And you said that there's been some small instances where you have re-engaged with the theme, whether it's with dioramas or some of the ship builds, which I also agree, I think are some of the better inclusions in Lego Star Wars right now. So what would Lego need to make? You know, let's call this. It's not even. There's no rumors here. It's not even speculation. Like, what would Lego need to do to get you back into the theme? Like, what would they need to make to do that?
Luke's land speeder.
Got him. We got this far into the episode.
It's funny because it's actually been a while since we have got
it. It has,
but
yeah.
No, I think
we're due for one.
I would just like a narrative, right? And like I really liked what they did with the Clone Wars stuff this year. Like I do that. You did it, Lego. You did it. You were this close to making me, you know, we were on the verge of brilliance. We were this close.
So
and then the prices were revealed, right? But like do a narrative, right? Let some of this stuff rest for a little bit and then bring it back, which is what they've done with the Clone Wars. Now I think they waited too long. They gave small nibbles here and there. I don't like the nibbles. Give me a meal. Give me a whole meal. I don't go to Chipotle to buy, you know, just the rice and then take it home, right? I go and you get the burrito, you get everything in it because it's not a burrito. If you don't have rice, beans, chicken, my God, I'm making myself hungry. Salsa, you know, like give me the burrito. Give me everything in a nice tortilla.
I appreciate your answer, but I'm looking for a specific set. What set do they need to make where you would just go like day one, you know, you go to your local Lego store to go buy that thing because you're just so excited. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they made it.
What set? It was actually almost the gingerbread. It was almost that. When I saw that, I was like, I love this. I did. I love this. I was like, this is cool. Like gingerbread Darth Vader. Like that's what I'm talking about. That's different, right? Man, it's funny because I was thinking about, you know, I've been thinking a lot about the Death Star, and I think the best Death Star could, you know, maybe it's the original UCS one, but I think it's actually the Death Star 2 40th anniversary gift with purchase. I think that a little bit better would be a perfect Lego set.
So like a $70
$40. Yeah, like, maybe it's the Starship collection of the Death Star. You know, just a little bit of a bigger one. I think that would be really good. I would definitely get that. Death Star 2 specifically.
Okay.
But if they had to do one, I think this is gonna sound terrible. It really is. I would love to see a remake of the B wing, the A wing, the Y wing, and I'm like cringing at myself because I'm like, oh, the original trilogy, because you know 5 years ago I would have rolled my eyes at any original trilogy set, but again I think it just goes back to this narrative, right? But the problem is they just did. I would have said this exact wave if it didn't cost you $600 for the for 4 Clone Wars sets, right?
Yeah.
So what I was gonna say is a $50 X-Wing, a $40 X-Wing. I think back to like that original Lego Star Wars wave, right? They had the B-Wing, the A-Wing, the X-Wing, the Y-Wing, and they were like $30, right? And I know that's not realistic, but so what I'm asking for is just a simple, right? They did it kind of with that like swap-a-roo for the Rebuild the Galaxy with the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter, and I know that that's what I'm saying, and I don't. I if I was a betting man and an insider knowledge, talking about insider trading over here because we're trading on the Lego market, I would say the opposite is going to happen. Wink, wink. But that's what it would take, would be like a really like fair price. Like these sets should not be being sold at a premium at this point when it's the fourth rendition of something we've already had. This is the third Arc 170 fighter. It is being sold at a premium because we haven't had it in 15 years. Not because it's the third one, right? That's the problem with Lego Star Wars, is it's bought as a collectible, not as something you can mass.
So I want to throw out a hypothetical with what you brought up, because I think, to your point of like some of the original trilogy sets, when the last sequel movie came out, The Rise of Skywalker, one of the things that I did was I bought the X-Wing, the Y-Wing, and the A-Wing from that movie, because those were, in my mind, and I think they still are, kind of the definitive versions of those sets. Fortunately, the X-Wing and Y-Wing had kind of a more original trilogy grounded version of each of those sets issued just a few years earlier, right? We had that weird X-Wing with the weird helmets, and that's kind of the best X-Wing we've gotten to date, in my opinion. And we had the Y-Wing from Rogue One, and also I think one of the best Y-Wings we've had to date. I don't mind paying $100 for an X-Wing if it is a truly like minifigure scale X-Wing that is extremely detailed and looks fantastic. That X-Wing that came out in like 2017 was a great X-Wing. Was it expensive? Yes. But was it at the
I think it was $80, right? $70?
Yeah, I think it was like 80 or 90. So like, yeah. Was it at the top of its class though? Absolutely. The one that we got from The Rise of Skywalker, Poe Dameron's X-Wing, that was in like the sherbet orange and like light flame blue, like electric blue. That one was also one of the best kind of modern X-Wings we've ever gotten.
It's like sherbet orange. No,
it's like the light orange and the light electric blue. It looks great, right? And those are just fantastic sets. And I know Lego kind of came out with their own versions that were cheaper because that was a big kind of issue even then. But even those felt compromised, and those other ones just didn't. And so, to your point, right? If they came out with a B-Wing that maybe costs like $90, right? A modern A-Wing that maybe was like 50 or 60, a modern Y-Wing, right? Like those would be awesome sets. And I think they would sell very well. And I don't think those prices would necessarily be like over the top. And so that really is effectively my own answer to that question too. Like, what would it take for me to go buy Star Wars sets today? Yeah, like a solid $100, $90 X-Wing. But this kind of downsizing that they're doing, they originally sort of downsized to sort of make the price more palatable, but now the price is less palatable and the set's a downsized set. So it's like specifically calling out the Juggernaut and the MTT. Like, these are smaller than they've ever been, and they're also more expensive than they've ever been. And it just feels like that wasn't the point. So,
yeah, it's an interesting conundrum, right? Because as more and more sets are released and remade, you would anticipate them to become more accessible. But what's really happened with Lego Star Wars is the prices have gotten worse for some of the stuff we've already gotten. That's the weird part, right? And even if you adjust them for inflation, they're gotten worse. That's the weird part.
Absolutely.
So Grinch, you think the fatigue would make it easier to access, but
yeah. Grinch, as we wrap up our conversation tonight, any big predictions? And obviously, we won't base any of that on what's out there from the rumor mill or anything.
Let's talk about 2027.
But yeah, like what do you based on kind of the trends that we've seen, obviously we're going to get a Luke's land speeder probably next year. It's just been way too long since we've had one. But like, what do you sort of foresee on the horizon here? We know we're getting a Mandalorian movie next year. I think we're getting another season of the show. Maybe Ahsoka's coming back, maybe not. I don't really know the status of that. I think there's an X-Wing series that might be coming out, question mark. Seems like that's sometimes not. So I don't know, Grinch, what are your thoughts there on 2026 and beyond?
I'll leave you with one more hot take.
Okay.
I think it's time Lego let Star Wars sit for a year.
Oh, I like that. I do, actually.
Put the time and effort, the UCS scale, into some other themes.
Yeah.
Give it a break.
Air it out a little bit, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And that might make me come back.
That is a hot take.
I don't know. The only reason I don't think that'll happen is because I think they would. I mean, it's a money printing IP, number one, and number two, there could be something in the contract there that's like, if you don't come up with sets, we'll give it to somebody else who will, and then you open the door for somebody like Funhole to come and get the IP, right? A true competitor, Mega Bloks, to come in and get that IP, and then you'd be in trouble. So,
which would be odd,
that'll happen.
But yeah, no, interesting point, and a hot take for sure. Future predictions on my end is, I think obviously these anniversary waves that we keep getting, whether it's movies or Lego, seem to be doing well. I would anticipate we continue to see more of those, right? 2026 will actually be the 10-year anniversary of Rogue One. I would anticipate we probably see a few sets dedicated to that.
You say 10 years?
Yeah, dude, 2016 was when Rogue One came out.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, 2015 was when The Force Awakens came out. So we've already kind of skipped that one. So
yeah, we didn't even get sets.
No. So I would expect we see some of that come out, right? I would expect we continue to probably see a very diversified wave of Lego sets continue. I think Disney is really still putting money into this Mandalorian Grogu franchise. My prediction beyond Lego Star Wars is I think that will finally meet its end as the series just kind of peters off and yeah, I think I don't think there's a lot of energy in that series left over after this last season that came out that just sort of was a thing. And so I think we'll continue to see sets based on all of that, but like I don't know, to what end and how much longer we'll see that. We've had some Clone Wars sets, or not Clone Wars, Episode 2 sets recently, so that's been revisited. Maybe some more Episode 1 sets. It's been a while since we've really gotten a ton of Episode 1 sets. And maybe some revisits of... Yeah. I'm thinking some of like the
But
Naboo
we didn't get
stuff.
a lot. Yeah, we didn't get a lot. We got like,
and that one was a gift with purchase. So
yeah,
which should have been a set. That would have been a great set. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think we could get... Maybe we start to see a few more sequel trilogy sets come out again, just as kind of time and distance have sort of allowed that franchise and trilogy to percolate a little bit more in the collective audience. Maybe things like the Solo movie could see some revisits, maybe not. I don't know. It's just some odd times for Star Wars. So yeah. To your point though, I think letting things air out a little bit wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because I felt like this wave this year could have been great. Could have been a renaissance.
Yeah,
it really.
And I'm sure some people feel like it is because of the Clone Wars stuff. I want to go back to the point where we said we don't know rumors. We're not talking through rumors, but I want to speculate here a little bit. What is the next UCS series like? Because we got the X-Wing, we got the ATST, we got the Slave One again, and the Death Star. Like, what are they gonna do? I just don't know, and
still haven't done a sequel trilogy. They really still haven't touched prequels, right?
yeah,
When are we
but
gonna
like
get the
there's
Jedi
reasons for all
Temple?
of that. You know what I mean? Like an Order 66 set.
Anakin in the chambers with the younglings.
Yeah. Oh dear.
No, I mean, I think the prequels are really beloved. I think that is a miss. I think it's funny. It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't with Lego Star Wars, because we finally got the gunship a few years ago, and
right, exactly.
How was that feedback taken? Oh, it was like, calm down, y'all. Did you want this?
But that's what I mean is like I think, unless we got like another Obi-Wan Starfighter and hyperdrive ring or something like that, or like, a UCS Arc 170, for example, I just don't know what other vessels are really left there to
Trade Federation
revisit.
ship.
I mean, you could,
That'd
but
be
like,
cool. You could do like a UCS Anakin pod racer. I mean, dude, we got a UCS
I kind of thought
speeder.
that would be
pod
pretty
racer
neat.
would be kind of sick. Yeah, I mean, I think the pod racer scene's actually kind of grown on people over the years. Like, that'd be cool. It's been forever since we got a real Sebulba's pod, right?
Yeah.
You could do the tank, the droid tank. I forget what it's called. It's not the MTT.
The ATT?
It's the ATT. Yeah, you could do that, right?
Yeah.
I think you could do some.
We did get an Ahsoka one from a few years ago, but that kind of had the weird Clone Wars styling, and it didn't. I mean, the original version of that set is still always the best, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of closest. Ironically, the one from 1990 is still, or 1999 is still one of the better looking.
Buildable Jar Jar. Give me a buildable Jar Jar. I'm just kidding.
No.
All right, Wes. Jar Jar. How about we wrap this in a bow and let us know, were we too pessimistic? Like I said, I actually like this wave. There's just there's a lot I liked about it, and then it just, as I started to like get into it, I'm just like, well, here's a problem. You're gonna charge this premium, like, here's a problem, right? So that's just kind of how I feel about Lego Star Wars right now.
Yeah, let's move on to some brick mail.
But I don't feel that way about brick mail. Brick mail. West, what's the first bit of brick mail?
Yeah, so our first message, someone who's been a longtime listener and commenter, John FC66, who writes in, the new Speed Champion DeLorean looks great. Definitely going to get that one eventually. The aquarium set is definitely weird and overpriced. Why pay $500 for that set when I could get Barad-dûr for $460 or Rivendell for $500? Which is a great point. The gift with purchase is also an insult. Love the topic, and while I don't have any Monster Hunter sets, I think it's a pretty cool theme. The Haunted House is definitely the best set, and I might get the new 3-in-1 Haunted House eventually. Your idea of an annual Halloween set is great. John FC66.
John, I love that take. The gift with purchase is an insult. Like, yeah, kind of sums it up.
I do like his comparison, and I don't think it's necessarily like, and this isn't meant to be an insult, right? But like, just putting the two sets side by side.
This is not meant to be a fish filter gift with purchase.
Well, I mean, like comparing the aquarium to like Barad-dûr or Rivendell, right? Like, not necessarily super novel, but a comparison that I haven't really heard made before. And yeah, if you put the aquarium next to the Rivendell and said you had $500, I would buy Rivendell 8 out of 7 days of the week. Like, no questions asked. That would be my pick every single time. So, yes, thank you for...
Rubes says, I stumbled upon this podcast, and being an AFOL, this is defo my new fave podcast now. Very insightful and genuine analysis and commentary. Thank you. Well, thank you for the nice words, Rubes.
Yes, thank you, Rubes. Lego Loving Lady wrote in on our YouTube video, I'm a semi-Goonies fan and very disappointed in the set versus the submission. I won't be buying. So You hear that, folks? Lego loving lady will not be getting the new Goonies set. That makes 3 of us. So
I wish you would elaborate a little bit on that. What's so disappointing to you as a semi Goonies fan? As I said, or as we said, neither West or I are really like Goonies fans. Like, we've seen it.
period.
That's
Yeah.
kind of it. Yeah, it's a movie. Rob Walker writes, "Hey guys, so much to discuss from the last few episodes. Great stuff. Number one, re-releases. I would love to see the really early modulars. Cafe Corner, Green Grocer, re-release. The cafe needs a total do-over, including a detailed interior, and the Green Grocer price is beyond the reach of most collectors. I have all the other modulars and won't ever pay premium prices for these two. Also, enough with the releases versus revisions of the Batmobiles. I love DC, but I've had enough Batman." Yeah, I think we could have probably taken that exact discussion we just had and just literally exchanged Star Wars for DC.
Except we'd only be talking about like 4 sets here. But yes.
What Batmobile did we get this year? Number 2, mini dolls. I'm really happy that Lego has the Friends line aimed at younger girls. As you know, I've been a huge advocate for girl power building for years. With that said, some of the friend builds are amazing. I bought the botanical gardens before I knew the adult version was going to be released. The young girls in my family love the mini dolls. I was disappointed that many of the Disney and Wicked characters were only released in mini doll scale initially, but Lego has mostly corrected that. It does seem that many of the awesome buildings in the Friends line could have been produced with some modifications for Lego City and may be taking away from some of the non-industrial buildings for City. And I agree. I was happy that and I think it's really interesting that they've done mini dolls and mini figures for a lot of those characters, right?
I mean,
and I think
I
we
think
talked
they
about
needed
too. You think they needed to?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I don't think they need to do it for every character, but for some of those major IPs, for sure. Right, for sure. Especially because I think what we have found just through our conversations with some of the female AFOLs out there is they really don't like the mini dolls. I mean, my wife included, right? When the Wicked set came out, I was like, oh, they're making Wicked sets. Yeah, but it's mini dolls. So I think it does. I think mini dolls are still really associated with younger fans of Legos and not necessarily adult fans of Lego. So I do like both for sure. Number 3, Monster Fighters. I'm a Halloween guy and have forever included decorating the yard. I have been forever including decorating the yard, dressing up, etc. In fact, my wife had a coffin made in my very own size for my 40th birthday. That is creepy. I owned the haunted house and would definitely include it in my top 5 builds. At the time it was released, it was magical. I had been hoping for a haunted house for years, and here it was. Plus, it had an interior with more spooky stuff. Although the interior is primitive by today's standards, it was amazing for the time. I love the spooky gate at the entrance to the house. I wanted the other Monster Fighters minifigures, but I didn't buy any of the other sets. As you discussed, they seem junky and unexplainable. A mummy helicopter feature. I would love to see a detailed Addams Family house. I think that's been on Lego Ideas a few times, right, West?
Yeah, and I mean, effectively, the Wednesday series has kind of done that to some extent, although not from the original movie. This is kind of based off the TV show. So, but also they're mini dolls. So
close, but no cigarillo. A non-Lego comment. Congrats to you guys for producing an outstanding podcast amid the challenges of changing homes, jobs, and raising your families. Men made of lesser stuff would have thrown in the towel. Keep up the good work. That was a very nice comment. Thank you, Rob.
Yes, thank you, Rob. We appreciate it.
As we sit here at 10:16 p.m. recording this on a Thursday before I go to work tomorrow and West goes to work tomorrow and I've got a sick daughter. So, yes. It's the stuff that you don't see. And that's also, I think, the important stuff to recognize. So thank you, Rob. It does actually mean a lot. West,
and
one
last,
more?
Tonight from Matthew. Hey, guys, you shared the rumor, and it's true. IKEA is moving into the Dulles Expo Center. Unfortunately, Brick Fair will need to find a new home. Here's hoping it lands in a good venue. And so we heard it here first from Matthew, confirmed Brick Fair will have to find a new spot because the Danes will have to find a new spot because the Swedes are invading. It's a Nordic civil war. Oh,
Wars have been fought over such predicaments. I mean, geez.
Some
who is
premium
Franz
real
Ferdinand?
estate. Actually,
look, this could be a net win. I mean, if Brick Fair could find a cool home and you get an IKEA for the local Nova folks.
Yeah. That Chantilly Expo Center was starting to show its age. So back in 10 years ago. Yeah,
but it was classic, dude. We went there as kids. Classic. I don't think it's changed since we went there as kids.
Yes.
Thank you for writing in, Matthew. I'm curious to know if you're excited to have an IKEA because I believe you lived in Nova, if I recall, and you either got to go to College Park or you got to go down to Potomac Mills. So Chantilly seems kind of like a good spot, but hey, I don't live there anymore. So, but 3 IKEAs in the DMV is pretty cool, I guess. And that is a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you are listening to this show. If you would like to write the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at afolswelcome. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.